What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's Casino over there.
Did it again.
I know. Every time I keep trying to catch myself, but I still do it. This is the only sports podcast. That's right. Of all the podcasts, this is the only one about sports. I'm Will. That's Casino. We saw each other last night. We had a little mandate. That was, as I text Casino last night, delightful.
Yeah, you did say delightful.
I did say delightful. It was delightful. Also, Casino, he won money.
Oh,
the team we were rooting for lost. We had pizza. We drank alcohol. If the team we were watching would have won, then it would have been perfect bro date. Perfect bro date.
Well, yeah, that, and I mean, maybe you would have put out, but I mean,
no, only hand stuff on the first date, only hand stuff. But we'll get into that when we talk about hockey, because this was big NFL week. It kind of, weirdly enough, it feels like week 18 doesn't really even feel like it's needed at this point. Like everybody's kind of where they're going to be, except for maybe a couple wild card teams. But it seems really like now we have a very good picture of what the playoffs are going to look like, Casino.
Yes and no. There's still, as you said, some wild card spots, but I mean, there's still, 4 games left?
Yeah. We still have 4 weeks. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all wild card stuff now because the seeding in division for the NFC is basically set. For the AFC, it really comes down. It's basically set except for it comes down to Kansas City, Buffalo, right? Whoever gets number 1 seed there. But Buffalo doesn't, I don't know. They just don't look
here's
like.
The thing is within these next 4 games, there is a lot of potential for positions to change, not just with the wild card. Like there's a lot of in-division play coming up, and I feel like this could be definitely more than just wild card stuff.
Really? Do you think, well, let me ask you, do you think Ravens are at the moment a game behind Bill or Chiefs? Do you think there's any shot the Ravens end up being the number 1 seed?
Potentially. I mean, they do play a pretty easy schedule outside of the Bengals in the last one. They have the Browns, Falcons, Steelers. I mean, they could win that.
Yeah, but then, I don't think the Chiefs lose a game the rest of the season. And then what does the Bills schedule look like? The Bills go, let's see, they just beat the Jets, so they go Dolphins next
Bears,
week.
Bengals, Patriots.
Ooh. Now where it gets interesting, I will say this. If Bengals win out, they beat the Bills, and then the Chiefs have a stumble in one game or not, they would potentially jump from the 5th seed up to number 1 seed. That would be that. Okay. You know what? I spoke too soon. I'll admit when I'm wrong. There is some interesting playoff scenarios that happen here. I think I was just looking at the NFC side of things where the first 4 are all set in stone. Like they're not changing, right? There's no scenario where the Eagles lose all their remaining games, the Vikings win all their remaining games, the Cowboys win all their remaining games, and then that switches Eagles, Vikings, Cowboys. It's obviously a possibility, but I don't think that's happening.
And so also though, like Titans, Jags, yes, Titans are up 2 games on them, but they do play again. They each have a cupcake with the Texans, but Titans got the Cowboys and the Chargers. They could definitely lose either one of those games.
Yeah.
And then,
well, but they're the division leader. So do you think that Jaguars would catch Titans?
If they could beat the Texans if they beat the Texans and the Titans, say, because they're going to lose to the Cowboys and Jets, so that means the Titans could lose out. If they lose to the Texans, I mean, the Titans could lose to the Chargers, could lose to the Cowboys. The Titans could lose their next 3 games. I mean, they should beat the Texans, but we'll get to that. The Texans showing some fight and being disruptors. I don't know. Having Texans or having Titans Jags being the last game, you never know, because if they're only 1 game behind, Jags win, they have the 2 tie breaks on them. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that could get interesting. It's there's some fun leeway. So I see what you're saying, though. The NFC is pretty set when it comes to at least the division
I think
leaders.
I think it's set for all 6. So it's definitely I think the Eagles, they need to win 3 of their next 4, maybe 2 of their next 4 to be the number 1 seed. That happens. Then the Vikings are set at number 2, maybe. I don't see the Vikings losing 2 of their next 4 as well, but then again, the Niners could overtake them as the 2nd seed, but again, those 5 are set. It just comes down to maybe you switch Vikings 49ers, so maybe you switch those for 2 and 3 seed.
And then I mean, the best part about the NFC is going to be your wild card picks. Commanders, Giants, Seahawks, Lions. The Lions are not out of it. They're only 1 game back on everybody.
I know. I think when it comes to that, I think you can lock Washington down as the 6th seed. And then I think Giants are out. So it really comes between Seahawks and Lions. And at this point, I would pick the Lions.
They play the Niners next week. Like, I think the Lions will squeak in as a 7th spot, and I think it'll happen.
Yeah. And then
I'm excited for this.
And then the Lions have a legit enough offense where you have to be scared playing them, right? Like they can drop 42 on you in any game. Like doesn't matter. Like their defense, we told you Lions would be good if their defense slightly improved. The Lions defense has slightly improved and now they're 5-1. Like,
and so here's the crazy thing. And then so now in the AFC wild card, if the Patriots win tonight, they will jump the Jets and the Chargers because they have them beat. So the Patriots would end up being the 7th seed. And I think Patriots over Chargers because they didn't play them, right? No, they didn't play them. They have them on strength of schedule, I believe.
Ooh. All right. So you know what?
I don't know how it works. Whatever the next thing is, or it's points against, points allowed, whatever. But if the Patriots win tonight, Patriots go from the 9 to the 7, and Jets are down, and Chargers are out as well. So that could be fun. And then the Patriots do, and then this could get interesting. The Dolphins and the Patriots play. So just say the Patriots and the Dolphins just keep winning until that game. Just say it's the Patriots got the Bengals. I don't think they could do it. You play that game. The Dolphins, like there's a lot still up for grabs with only 4 weeks to go. Like it's not as dead set as what you said.
That's true.
Most of it has to do with the wild card, but it is exciting.
This was Eagles bias with the Eagles being the number 1 seed. And then I was just like, these playoffs are boring. They're already set. And literally, they're the only ones set. Everybody else could move except for Cowboys are pretty much stuck in the 5. And then the Ravens are kind of stuck in the 9 because, again, to get the number 2 or 1 seed, Bills and Chiefs would have to lose more than the Ravens, and I just don't see that happening. But everybody else, and then I would say I think the Commanders are stuck at number 6. Could they fall to 7? I don't think so because, well, no, I guess they could. If the Seahawks keep winning, then they could fall to 7 and the Commanders could go to short. 6.
There's a lot that could happen.
Yeah. So Casino, what when it comes to playoffs, and then we'll get into the actual games this week, on the AFC side, who do you think takes the number 1 seed? There's scenarios where it could be Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs, or Bills.
I mean, it's either going to be the Bills or the Chiefs. 100%. But this is where it gets interesting, at least with the Bills, is they have the Dolphins and the Patriots, and the Dolphins are not too far behind. And then they also play the Bengals as well, and the Bengals could keep going. I can see the Bills lose to the Bengals pretty easily. The Dolphins, I don't know, they slipped up a little bit. We'll see, but say they lose to the Bengals and the Dolphins beat them, and the Dolphins could take over as that spot. So I'm not too sure about the Bills. I think it will be the Chiefs. They got an easier schedule. They got the Texans, Seahawks, Broncos, and Raiders. That is cake. They're just probably going to walk through. So I think the Chiefs will come out as the number one. Well, they are currently, but stay the number one AFC. Actually, no, the Bills are above them. They're the one. But
yeah,
right?
the Chiefs, looking at their schedule, the Chiefs actually really lucked out this year on playing like everybody talks about Eagles' easy schedule. The Chiefs have actually had a pretty easy schedule. Like,
Well,
if you
everybody
look
thought
at
the
it,
Broncos and Raiders were going to be better, including us. So,
well, that's true. But then also the games that before this season you were looking at out of division being like, oh, those are going to be more challenging teams. Cardinals, Buccaneers, let's see. They beat the 49ers, which looks like their best win because they blew them out by almost 3 touchdowns. But then you look at they barely beat the Titans, who look kind of like shit for the past month, and then they lost to the Bengals, they lost to the Bills, they beat the Chiefs and Jaguars pretty easily, and then they almost lost to the Broncos. So of the 4 teams they've played that are actually like really good, they lost to the Bengals, lost to the Bills, and then who was I saying was the other good team they played? No, that's pretty much it. So of the 2 really good teams they've played, they lost to both of them, and then they almost lost to the Titans. Remember that game went into OT, but Ryan Tannehill wasn't starting that game. So I
right.
think I'm going to put the Chiefs in that category of luck with schedule, and especially how they're ending it with, like you said, just 4 cupcakes in a row.
Yeah,
But
I don't know how they got this easy of a schedule.
I
I
don't
really
either.
don't.
Well, because the Eagles got it because they finished as a wild card, not a division leader, right? So that's why the Cowboys technically have a tougher schedule, even though it's kind of evened out where it's because they base it on teams last year, not records. You can't base it on records this year. So, the Rams being on most people's schedule was looked at as a hard game because they're Super Bowl, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the Chiefs, I think we need to start shining a magnifying glass more on this team as not being as good as their record indicates. If that's how we're basing things. That's not how I base things, but I'm an Eagles fan, and I heard for 3 months how Eagles had an easy schedule, and that's why their record was that. But now let's dive into games this week. Casino. How many games do you think you won this week?
12.
You won 7. So, how many games do you think I won?
6.
Close. I won 5. So, yeah, rough, brutal week. We did pick 2 very good upsets, though. I will give us credit on that. You picked Lions over the Vikings. I talked myself out of also picking the Lions. So
Well, you
I
said
picked
yesterday,
Vikings.
apparently everybody knew it except for you.
Yeah. And we talked about this on this podcast. Everybody, remember we talked about the line was like Lions +2. And I was like, that's fucking insane. And then we discussed that. Everybody picked the Lions. I didn't. Apparently, everybody saw this coming. Again, I thought the Vikings would hold on, but yeah, that's rough.
I'm trying to, I do this as like, yeah, I knew that. I got 7 right. Like,
we did both pick the Steelers, and that game was close pretty much the entire time. Steelers only end up losing by 2. The game that I did pick the upset in is I did pick Jaguars. I do not remember picking Jaguars. I picked Jaguars. You picked Titans. So that I don't know how that happened. And then you picked Eagles, I picked Giants. That was reverse jinx. It worked flawlessly. And that's pretty much it for our picks. We did, however, both pick Seahawks, both pick Dolphins, which along with both picking Raiders and both picking Steelers, kind of fucked our picks this week. But let's talk about these games. We're diving in with that game first, actually. Lions, who are now 6-7, and as we just talked about it, white hot going into the playoffs with a real shot of getting that last wild card. White hot against the now 10-3. What's the opposite of white hot? Because that's what this Minnesota Vikings team is. We talk about it every week, Casino. Is this the most disrespected 10-3 team ever, and is it justified?
Again, I think they're good. Do I think that I don't know if their record is what they're supposed to be. I think it should be a little off. But they're still a good team. They're still a good team. They can compete. I mean, the numbers for him. Why am I? Oh my goodness. I'm having a little bit of a struggle bus day from last night.
Do you have a hangover?
I did this morning.
It was. I mean, I'm right as rain.
I mixed too much different drinks. That's what done me in there, bud. That's what done me in. Anyway, but he's still. So we're talking about Detroit, Minnesota. Kirk Cousins still threw 31-41, 425 yards, 2 TDs. Like, he still had a good game. Personally, he had a good game. It was the fumbles, it was the turnovers that did not help them out. And yeah, so 10-3. I don't know if it should be 10-3. Probably more like 8-5, but they're still a good team. But I think it is justified with what everybody's saying, that they're not as hot as they should be. But we've talked about this. The Lions, we were shocked that before they went on this win streak, that they had the record they had. They are a much better team. We did not expect them. We even picked them in weeks that they were losing towards the beginning of the season. I'm shocked that they're 6-7. We kind of touched on it a minute ago. I do think the Lions will make the playoffs.
I do too.
I do too. I think they'll make the playoffs. They're in the stride, and that does mean they're going to have to play really good down the stretch. I mean, they have the Jets. That will be a tough one to win. But then they got Panthers, Bears, Packers. They may get in at a 9-8.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, and we've talked about this almost the entire season now. The Lions have been almost the entire season a top 5 offense. And like their offense it's staggering how good their offense is. Like they're literally the only teams better than them in the league on offense in almost every category are the Chiefs, Bills, and the Eagles. Those are the only 3 teams that are in Detroit's league in terms of offense. And then Cincinnati has risen from their kind of early season struggles to be right below Detroit. But I mean, you look at the Bengals, they have Joe Burrow, the best wide receiver trio in the league. You look at Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, you obviously don't have to rattle off why those teams are great offenses. And then you put Jared Goff, you put a USFL running back that they signed, you put all these picks they got for Matt Stafford. Like, one of these things is not like the other, but it is. Like, it's crazy. I trust Jared Goff. I would trust him more than Kirk Cousins in a playoff game.
That's fair. But again, the Vikings did not play horrible. They had a few turnovers, and that's what did them in. I mean, big talking point is, like, I gave you Cousins numbers, but Jefferson. Are you looking at it? If you're not looking at it,
yes.
Dang it. 11 receptions, 15 targets. He had 223 yards.
Right when you said, "Are you looking at it?" I clicked over to it, and then I saw that number. Dear Lord, I would not have guessed that.
It's insane. And then Hawkinson, their second best receivers, Very happy that he went in there and had a good game against Detroit. Again, I have nothing against Detroit, but it is nice to see Hawkinson go to a team that has a winning record. Like, I think these two teams are actually pretty close to each other.
But now he left this team to go to a team we thought was better, and now the Lions are playing better and might be better in the playoffs.
Yes, but here's
I don't
the thing.
know.
He's got a guarantee to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure he's just delighted to be in the playoffs. That's huge for him. So
now,
yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins and Jefferson, they played amazing.
You know who hasn't played amazing for about a month now is Dalvin Cook. Where has Dalvin Cook been? He's just vanished for the past month. In the past month, this game included, he had 15 attempts, 23 yards on 15 attempts. That is 1.5 yards per carry. Like, that is, again, Detroit's defense is the worst in the league, and
he
they've got
He did have that fumble, so yeah, there's something off with him. He's not mentally there.
No. And last week he had 20 attempts for 86 yards, averaging 4.3 yards a play. Again, 20 attempts, 86 yards is good, but 20 attempts is a lot to get to 86. Like, that's a lot. 2 weeks prior, or the week before that, against your team, 22 attempts for 42 yards, averaging 1.9 carries a yard. Like, then the week before that, 11 carries, 72 yards, but that was in that Cowboys game where they just got annihilated. And then before that, he had a really good season. So he's at 950 yards for the season, but almost none of that has come in the past month. Like, we just read him off. So I don't know what happened to Minnesota's run game, but now they are just in the let's just throw the ball to Jefferson, and that's our offense. I don't know where
the star of the game. The reason the Lions won, again, I feel like these two teams are pretty even match, was the Lions defense was able to create turnovers. They had 4 sacks in the game, 2 turnovers,
and stop the run.
Yeah. So that was the name of the game. That's why they won. But Cousins and Jefferson did everything they could.
Well, and then that has to be a shirt. There's no way in hell it's not already
you've already
a shirt.
promised us shirts and everything and beer and all the things, and you still have yet to do it.
You know what? If there is I will buy that and wear it before the end of the NFL season.
Free rhyme.
Oh, there might not be one. Maybe I got to type in Lions.
So if there is, or if there isn't, you better beat one of our viewers to the punch, because they're going to get that shit trademarked, and they're going to make millions, and you won't.
You know what? There is not a shirt with that. I'm bleeping all this out. We're making this shirt, copywriting it, selling it on a website. Because that is a good shirt idea.
The reason why you're not going to bleep any of this out is because now that will make you be proactive to get it done. If not, you won't do it, just like everything else that you've said that you do.
Damn, Casino went hard on me. But this will be the first one. But yeah, Goff 27 for 39, 330 and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. And then Jamal Williams 16 for 37 yards, but he also had that's Jameson. Oh yeah, Jameson Williams. No, they have 2 people named Jameson Williams. That's why I was getting confused. Didn't they have a running back who went off in this game? No. All right. I'm still thinking about that.
The only one that did was Goff.
That sweet, sweet shirt money. Sweet, sweet shirt money. That merch money. Next up, Casino. Let's move from that game to the next game, which is Ravens winning 16-14. Now 9-4 against the 5-8 Steelers. Tyler Huntley 8 for 12, 88 yards. Brutal. The Steelers, Pickett gets knocked out of the game. I don't know what happened to Pickett, but All I know is I was flipping between the Eagles and red zone game, and all of a sudden Mitch Trubisky's in there. Every time they cut to it, it was 4 times, I remember. One time he threw a touchdown. The other 3 was INTs. So he was 22 for 30, 276, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Yeah, takeaway from this game, Casito.
How about you start us off on that? What do you think?
Well, looks like from what
you're always putting me first.
Looks like from what I can see is it says as of 3 hours ago, it's time. This from Steelers Wire. It's time to worry about Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett and his concussions. So I'm assuming he just took a hit that made him pop up on the, where they do that test where you have a concussion, and he has had a history of concussions. So hopefully Kenny Pickett's okay.
I think what
but
we did find out today, even though we've all pretty known, is Trubisky's just bad.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. I don't know why he was starting in the first place. He will turn into a pumpkin sooner rather than later. He had great Bears teams where he was 100% the reason they were losing games, and very few times where he was the reason they were winning it. But I don't know what to make of either of these teams. I mean, even when Lamar Jackson was in there, this Ravens team was starting to struggle.
It's impressive they won the Ravens won this game when they only threw for 17 times and only just over 100 yards. It's kind of baffling. But the reason is because Trubisky, even though he threw for about 224, it was like 224, he had decent completion rating, but he threw 3 INTs. The biggest thing about football is you got to protect the ball. You have to protect the ball. It's just about the last game that we talked about.
Yep.
Why I think Vikings lost and Detroit won that game is just because the turnovers. They had the ball a little longer. It's possession.
Well, and the Steelers, again, I don't know. You look at everything on paper. I didn't watch this game, but I kept seeing it pop up on Red Zone, and it was just, there's nothing on paper or stat-wise that makes you see why they only had 14 points and they held the Ravens to 16. The Ravens with Lamar Jackson in this game, I don't know if it would have been a different score. I don't know if it would have been higher scoring, because the Ravens were having a weird past month. Remember they had that 10-9 game against the Broncos when Lamar Jackson got knocked out. But before that, I just had it pulled up. They were playing some weird games to begin with. So, I am all over. My computer's freaking out. All over. Let me pull this up. Please hold. But okay, there it is. So they had the 10-9 game against the Broncos. Then they lost to the Jaguars with Lamar Jackson in it. So again, the Jaguars, let's actually segue into that game, Casino, the Jaguars and Titans game, because the Jaguars win and are now 5-8. 36-22 against the now 7-6 Tennessee Titans. Trevor Lawrence went off. I mean, Lawrence off? I don't know.
But Evan Ingram, what a game for that tight end. Wow. If you had him in your tight end slot, it was almost 40 points. He had 11 receptions off 15 targets, but 162 yards and 2 TDs. That's lovely. If your tight end is pulling stuff off like that,
dude, especially with it's been a rough in fantasy. It's been a rough tight end year. If you don't have Kelsey, then it's just like you're throwing your hands up and just throwing darts at the wall.
I had a good one. I had Goddard, and then he got hurt. See what I did there? We're just gonna.
Is it time for
my t-shirt?
That's
my t-shirt. Goddard got hurt. Goddard got hurt. That's my t-shirt. I'm sure it's not going to sell well, but maybe in Dallas. But who knows?
So the Jaguars, again, so they put 36 points up against the Titans and won. They lost to the Lions where they only put 14 points up. The Lions put up 40. Then the Jaguars beat the Ravens 28-17. They lose to the Chiefs by 10, and then they beat the Raiders by 7. That was their last, 6 games? So, what is this Jaguars team? I have no idea. They are
None.
just win one, lose one, win one. So they're guaranteed, if that's the pattern, to lose embarrassingly next week to the Cowboys, and then they're just going to slaughter the Jets after that. And then they're going to lose to the Texans and then slaughter the Titans again. So I don't know. The Jaguars, again, Lawrence is so hot and cold. He has great games where you're like, that's who he was supposed to be. And then he has games where he throws for 114 yards and like turns the ball over 3 times. And you're like, what even is this? I don't know. I don't know. As far as the other side, what has happened to the Tennessee Titans, Casino? Because
that's multiple games. I mean, they just can't get anything going. Nothing.
before the Eagles game, I said they were the team I was scared of most in the AFC. And now they have just they played close games against the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Packers, and the Bengals. They got absolutely slaughtered by the Eagles. And then yesterday, that game wasn't even close. They get absolutely slaughtered by the Jaguars. So I don't know. What is
I
this?
really don't
What
know.
is this team?
I don't know what to make of this team right now. We've talked about it all season though. Is they're nothing if they don't have Henry working. Like,
Yeah.
if he's not up there, crushing it. I mean, he did go 121 yards on 17 attempts, so that is one of his better rushing nights that he's had recently. But still, I mean, and Tannehill did okay, but what happened
Well,
to the
this has all
defense?
been
I mean,
the
you're playing the
defense failing
Cowboys.
them.
Yeah, yeah. What are you doing with the, like? But I mean, the offense, they can still put up a little bit more and control the ball a little more. But for the most part, yeah, the defense. What like they became a sieve. Like, I don't get it. I really don't.
Here's what it is. I just figured it out for us, Casino, because we saw this against the Eagles and we just saw this against the Jaguars. They are, at the moment, they are the 3rd best rushing defense in the league, which we saw be exposed a little because the Eagles ran all over them. However, they are the worst or second to worst pass defense in the league, behind or ahead of only what team do you think has the worst pass defense in the league?
I'd
I'll
probably
give you
just say Lions.
no, but good guess, because the Lions are 30th. Tennessee is 31st. The Minnesota Vikings are the worst pass defense in the league. So that's going to be scary going into the NFC playoffs, when you're probably going to be playing the Lions as the 7th seed, and the Lions have the best or the top 5 pass offense in the league. So my bettors out there, I know how you trust me when it comes to me spending your money in bets. Just keep that in mind. However, yeah, so the Titans again held the Jaguars to 60 yards rushing, gave up 368 passing. So I don't trust this Titans defense. Even their rush defense was exposed in that Philadelphia game. So I don't know, Casino. I don't know. Do you see a scenario where the Jaguars come back and win the AFC South over this Titans team?
Well, I gave it to you earlier. It's a very good possibility. Just with who they have to play left, it may come down to where the Jags are 1 game behind the Titans going into the last game, and it's Titans, you won't either win and you go in, or Jags, you win and go in. It could really be that. Yes, that means the Jags would have to win 1 of the next 3, more than the Titans. But with how the Titans have been playing, and with how the Jags seem to always just have a little bit of fight, they don't seem to be a team to ever roll over. But yeah, that's a very big possibility. I would love to see that, because it'd just be like, all right, well, 2 not so great teams right now. going out and they're going to make the playoffs? Which one? And
Yeah.
I agree with you. I was right there with you saying the Titans scared me, but their defense is just letting them down.
Well,
And
now
I think Henry's just getting tired as well. Tannehill, there's always been a narrative about Tannehill. Do you trust him in the playoffs? Um,
no.
so I don't know.
No. And plus, I would much rather go. We know how the Titans, like, we know what they are, right? They're all Derrick Henry. They're all try to stop the run, contain the pass. And then Tannehill is throwing to maybe one of, if not, if the Giants wide receivers were, if they had Kenny Golladay at even 70% of what he normally is, the Titans would by far have the worst wide receiving group in the league. I can't, besides that one guy who was out for this game, they have nobody else. Nobody else. But let's move over to what is now potentially taking over Tennessee as the scariest AFC team, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now 9-4. We just talked about a scenario where they could potentially be the 1 seed and just come out of nowhere, but they are now 9-4 after beating the 5-8 Cleveland Browns 23-10. Deshaun Watson, I mean, he should be thanking the Lord that the Russell Wilson trade happened before this season, or else he would by far, and he still might be. It's close, but this looks like just an abysmal trade 2 years or 2 weeks
well, here's
in.
the thing: is he still passing yards? He still threw more than Joey B. He did throw the ball more than Joey B. He had to because their rushing didn't exist, but third down efficiency, you're 4 for 15. I mean, Bengals weren't great either. They were 6 for 15. I think the big thing in this game, though, I still don't think that Deshaun Watson had a great game. He had a much better game than his previous one. But
well, honestly, he couldn't have had a worse one.
Right, but penalties really hurt the Browns this game. Like this game just seemed like it was just penalty and penalty after. They had 98 yards worth of penalties. So bad.
And plus you're on the road, so you're also in Cincinnati. You're playing against Joey B, a team that is are they, I think potentially they are the hottest team in the league right now. Just how they have just rattled off these wins since they destroyed the Panthers, they beat the Steelers, they beat the Titans, they beat the Chiefs, and now they beat the Browns. The last game they've lost was to this Browns team, which was then led by Jacoby Brissett. So,
and again, what did I say? What have I always said about Jacoby Brissett? He is a decent running quarterback. They needed that. They needed somebody that could scramble yesterday. If they had a mobile quarterback yesterday, and they brought down the penalties by maybe 30 yards, they win that game.
Well, Deshaun Watson, he rushed 6 times for 33 yards.
Yeah,
is he a running quarterback? I don't know. I don't remember him ever being a decent or good running quarterback, but let me look up his stats. Keep going, Casito.
No, I don't think he is. Everything that I can remember about him when he played is he's not running around. He's not scrambling. He's always stayed in the pocket. And if he did scramble, it was for minimal yardage, just like what it was yesterday. But no, he's not a running quarterback. Like I said, Jacoby Brissett, that's a running quarterback because he actually has the foresight of when the pocket starts collapsing and that pressure is coming down. And we've talked about this. Jacoby is not the best backup, but he's a backup that I would take over a lot of others. I don't see him as a starter in most places, but right now, better than Deshaun Watson. They could have won that game because getting outside the pocket when you're under pressure, he has the foresight of seeing the holes like a running back does, being able to get through the pockets. I don't think Deshaun Watson has that. Obviously, he scrambled for a little bit, but that doesn't make him a running quarterback. That makes he was able to scramble, 2 or 3 yards. Because how many times did you say he had to?
6 rushes for 33 yards.
Okay, so you get like 5 yards, but you're not crushing it with the run game. So no, I don't recall him ever being a running quarterback. I mean, have you got the stats pulled up? Did you find any or no?
Dude, I can't even find
Well, see,
him.
exactly. They don't exist. They don't exist. No, but Bengals, I think they're a hot team right now. Um, uh, they could definitely turn some heads come playoff time.
Yeah, I think they have now taken the what is it? The mantle. All right, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not. We'll talk next. When we're predicting games, I will have Deshaun Watson's rushing yards pulled up, but because I can't fucking find
Don't you, viewers don't trust that because we know about
them.
BJ and following through.
That's not true.
Um,
I'm a
I
great
can't
follower
I
througher.
I can't wait. Whichever viewer comes up with these shirts first, send me a link. I'll buy them from you. So
Let's see. It looks like no, that's not right. All right. Yeah, fuck it.
all right, we're getting.
Fuck it.
So I think that
But
game is pretty much talked about.
well, no, I think the Bengals, if you're the Bengals, I think that if you're the Chiefs or the Bills, I think the Bengals are the one team that scares you in this playoffs because if you're the Bills or the Chiefs, you're looking at either the Bills or the Chiefs and you're saying we've beat that team before, we've seen them in the playoffs before, we've seen them in the regular season before. If you're looking at the Bengals, first off, if you're the Chiefs, you're saying we've never beat the Bengals, right? They beat us in the playoffs, they beat us at home, they've beat us in the regular season. Like the Bengals have our number. And then if you're looking at the Bills, you're saying, and let's move to the Bills game because that's the next one. The 7-6 New York Jets lose to the now 10-3 Buffalo Bills 20-12.
Can we take a moment here, a moment of silence, um, for White, please?
Dear
Because I
Lord.
think that he got murdered, and
Dude,
let's make sure that he's okay.
you messaged me and said Mike White just took one of the worst hits I've ever seen. And then I watched it and I had to call you so we could talk about what a vicious hit that was. I mean, you said it perfectly.
I like how I
Yes.
described it. Yeah, so like for all you other fellow nerds out there, we're nerds. But I was like, it was when the Ancient One in Avengers Endgame or whatever hit Bruce Banner's spirit out of the Hulk, in like that motion of like turning into an acute triangle, pretty much. That's what it looked like Mike White's body did, and it was legal. It was a perfectly good legal hit. It was the helmet of the guy. I forget who hit him, but it was just to the left. It did not make contact with the body. It was all shoulder right into Mike White's rib cage, gut, and as you said, you outside of like seeing somebody like break an arm or break a leg, that was the most gruesome thing because as you told me the other day, he's on the ground rolling around like he's gonna die. He did go out. He came back in. He went back out. Came back in. But he at the end of the game, they did take him to the hospital because they want to make sure that he doesn't have any internal bleeding or internal injuries that they just
Which
don't know about.
when I hear
Which
something like that, that means he was definitely on the sideline coughing up blood. There's no way in hell they would just randomly say internal injuries if there wasn't a reason to say that. So there must have been something that happened that made them go, "Oh shit, he needs to go to the hospital for internal bleeding." Like, and let's see if there has been any news.
yeah, it was rough. I'm wondering now if his parents actually got excited and showed a little bit of emotion.
As of 1 hour ago, the New York Post, so take this with a grain of salt, but Mike White vows to play through injury as Jets mull if they should switch to Zach Wilson. So as of 1 hour ago, 17 minutes ago, 51 minutes ago, it looks like he is okay and is set to play against the Lions, which next week, Lions Jets, who would have thought that is now like a must-watch game for like playoff seeding? Because if the Jets lose, they're probably out. If the Lions lose, they're definitely out. So that is now, must watch for both those teams. But
let's go Lions, because I want the Lions to make it, and I need the Patriots to jump the Jets. So let's go Lions. I will watch.
Oh, what's this on my computer? It is Deshaun Watson's rushing stats. That's so crazy. So he has in his career, he has rookie year, 550 yards. 2019, 413 yards. 2020, 444 yards. 2021, he didn't play. I don't know why. What happened to him that year? Why didn't he play that year? And then 2022, he now has 54 yards. So he rushes, but he only rushes 99, 82, 90. So you're right. He isn't really a rushing quarterback, even though he has kind of good rushing quarterback numbers. So, yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it, Casino. Rushing stats, Deshaun Watson. But as far as the Jets go, I think they definitely should be concerned. As you said, they're like right on the bubble. Now their quarterback is potentially injured. They play.
I don't think he plays. If he plays, then that hit, I know it was gruesome, but he sold it. He sold it. If he comes back and plays and he doesn't have any broken ribs or internal injuries,
well, there's also
screaming.
When I showed you,
I thought he died.
Yeah, when I showed you this yesterday when we went to the game, but so he gets hit. He left in the second quarter after that hit, came back in 2 plays later after that hit, which is fucking crazy to only be out 2 plays after taking a hit like that. He then gets hit in the ribs again in the third quarter, leaves the game the second time to get x-rays, returned at the start of the fourth quarter and finished the game. And then once the game was final, he left in an ambulance and went to the hospital for potential internal injuries, which apparently there was no internal injuries. So maybe he just got the wind knocked out of him or bruised ribs or something.
He 100% at bare minimum got the wind knocked out of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But lucky to see. I actually really like this Jets team. I think they're fun to watch. They're young. They have a coach I actually like. And now that
I guarantee you this Jets team would maybe be like a game behind the Bills for the division.
If they would have started Mike White at the beginning.
Well, not just that, but if also their running back did not get hurt.
Oh, Breece Hall? Yeah.
Breece Hall. If he didn't get hurt.
Well, now that
just gives them. Well, Knight. Yes. Knight came in. He's had a wonderful thing. They picked this dude up out of nowhere.
I have
wonderful job for him.
We talked about this yesterday. Great names. I love great names. Zonovan Knight is a fucking cool name. That is a badass name. Zonovan Knight. If I was like, oh, hey, it's Will, and I'm here with my co-host, Zonovan Knight, we would be the #1 podcast in the world. But
speaking of that, let's throw this out here. We'll talk about bringing in our plans to bring in some of our people, our friends, to do podcasts with us here in a bit. So sorry, we'll get there. It made me remind that we got to do a shout out to Jeff. Jeff, shout out to you, bud.
But now, Jeff would be fine. Like he'd be a good get. Now my dream get for the podcast is Zonovan Knight. And I will not ask him any football questions. I'll just ask him questions about how his parents came up with his name. Like it'll be a riveting podcast.
We do have a Twitter now. So you should tweet him. Be like, hey, this is the Only Sports podcast. If you want, we can interview you via Zoom.
And it'll just be about your name. I'll throw that in there so he feels no pressure to come on and talk about football. Also, I couldn't remember. So go follow us on Twitter. I will be doing the Twitter page because Casino does not do social media. Pretty much. Like you do no social media. I don't really do social media either, but
I have
Twitter's fun.
I have a Facebook just because so I can have the Messenger app so we could talk in our group chats.
Yeah. pretty much. So neither of
And
us
then
are
I have
big
a
social
Snapchat
media
to snap
guys.
pictures of my dick to my wife. I don't know.
But follow us, Only
That does
Sportscast.
not happen, by the way.
No, he sends them to me.
Yes.
Only Sportscast on Twitter is our follow. Go follow us so you can see me tweet once a week. It's riveting stuff. But we've talked about the Jets. Now let's talk about the Bills, because the
They did not
Bills,
look good.
they haven't looked good.
They're still broken. They're still broken. I don't know. I'm now in panic mode. I'm in panic mode. I don't know. There's multiple teams that I could see beating them in the AFC and in
The
the
Bengals.
NFC.
We just talked about it. I
Yeah,
could 100% see the Bengals
the
going
Bills,
into Buffalo and winning.
I did say, though, that they had to win this game, but they did not look good doing it. They did not look good doing it.
No. They only win by 8 points, but
So let me ask you this, though. Do you think a lot of this is just because the Jets defense is that good? Or do you think the Bills dropped the ball again?
No, I think the Bills have dropped the ball for let's go. When they beat the Chiefs, right? That really felt like the high point of the Bills season, right? Like early in the season, week 2, Monday Night Football, where they destroyed the Titans. That was when they still had the preseason hype. They were everybody's favorite team, everybody's pick to go to the Super Bowl, this podcast included, right?
Keep going. I think I heard the kid. So go.
Yeah. So the Bills beating the Chiefs in Kansas City was definitely the highlight and the point of the season where everybody was like, this Bills team is legit, right? Because at the beginning of the season, they beat the Rams, but that was before everybody knew the Rams were the worst team coming off a Super Bowl victory in NFL history, right? Then they blow out the Titans. They lose to the Dolphins, but that was when the Dolphins were emerging as everybody being like, oh, maybe the Dolphins are the number 1 team in the AFC, blah, blah, blah. Then they beat the Ravens. They destroyed the Steelers. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Packers when the Packers were still kind of in it. They lose to the Jets when the Jets were emerging as, oh, maybe the Jets are the best team, blah, blah, blah. They lose to the Vikings, which now, in retrospect, that game losing to that team in OT looks way worse than when it actually happened. There's Casito's dog. They beat the Browns in a game that feels closer on paper than it actually was. Then the Thanksgiving game, I think, is when we start. Well, the Vikings game is when you're like, what's going on with this Bills team? The Thanksgiving game is one of those games we'll talk about in a bit where you win, but you're still like, I am now more nervous for my team if we would have lost than how we just beat this Lions team. Because Lions team is now good, but that was also before they started being good and being on everybody's radar. So the Bills beat them by 3. So that was a close game. Then they beat your Patriots pretty handily by 14 points. By 14.
It was enough.
Yeah, and then they have won against this Jets team, but again, they beat the Patriots by 14, but that Lions, Vikings, and then both Jets games have really just made me go like, what is going on with this Bills team? So Casino,
chin.
Yeah, Casino with the Bills, and again, they're still the number 1 seed in the AFC at the moment, and we're talking about them like the sky is falling. But if you had to give a percentage of how confident you are in this Bills team, to make it to the Super Bowl, let's not even talk about winning, just to make it through the AFC, what percentage points would you give the number 1 team in the AFC right now?
Honestly, I'd probably go about a 50-50 right now, because they have the talent and they can do it. They're just not. So it's hard to knock them, because they have the talent. They show sparks. They could turn it around. Maybe this is just a slump they're going through in the playoffs, and they're back to being the Bills. But I don't know. I'm honestly on a coin flip here. I really don't know.
Well, remember, they play the Dolphins next week, and the Dolphins already beat them. So if the Dolphins beat them again, then it becomes interesting where they would obviously lose the number 1 seed back to Kansas City. And then they're in contention to lose their division to the Dolphins. Because if the Dolphins win out and then the Bills lose to both the Dolphins and Bengals, then it's Miami's division to lose at that point. And then the Bills slip in the span of 3 weeks from the number 1 seed down to a wild card, not even like a division winning. And then you're playing every playoff game on the road. And then it becomes a much different team than we thought. Number 1 seed, the playoffs go through Buffalo. That becomes the Dolphins, Bills, and Bengals Bills games are must win if you even want to be basically in the playoffs at that point, because you're slipping down to the 6 or 7 seed. That is crazy. But again, we talked about this earlier in the season when the Chiefs were the number 1 seed. They slipped all the way. They slipped from 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, because I think the Dolphins, I don't know. But yeah, I'm scared. I would honestly say I'm in a 33%, because I think you have to give them as much shot as you do Bengals and Chiefs. And I feel way better about Bengals and Chiefs now than I do Bills.
That's going.
So now let's go on
we got to talk about these 2 games together at the same time.
Are you talking about the Cowboys game?
Cowboys, Texans, Eagles, Giants.
Yeah, buddy.
They have to go. This is must talk.
So let's talk about.
Let me start off. I will pitch it to you because I know you've got a lot more to say. All right. So with the Eagles, let's start with them first. They finally had that blowout game that you've been talking about, 48-22 against the Giants. I told you the Giants were slipping, but Jalen Hurts, he just looks like a god. He really is. You texted me that, again, you do it every time, and I love it, and I agree with it. But, man, did he look amazing. And the Eagles do look like the number 1 team in the league for a reason right now. And then on the flippity flop, you have the best team ever to step foot on a football field
with the best defense.
With the best defense. With this year, the Dallas Cowboys, the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then again, I don't like sliced bread. Whatever, just give me a loaf. I like bread. Anyway, Dom,
just give me a loaf.
That's your next thing. Do I like sliced bread or loaf bread? Let me know.
I mean, right there, that's a T-shirt if I've ever heard one. Give me the loaf.
Give me the loaf. It's just T-shirt ideas. We're going to start a T-shirt company, just like our friend did and never worked out. That's a shout out to you, Tom. Listen to the episode, then yell at me. But I know you don't listen to the episode. So anyway, so then we have the Cowboys squeak by. And when I say squeak by, I mean
the last minute of the game.
Off. Yeah, the wheels are off on the back of the truck. And they're just going, they're digging down into the asphalt. It's
sparks are flying.
The sparks are flying. But then somehow you beat the Texans. I don't know how they did it. Oh, it's because the Texans looked, as you said, the Texans finally looked like the Texans, like a one-win team in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Dude, it wasn't even the last 2 minutes. It was literally the last minute. The last minute, they were like, oh, we forgot we're a 1-score team. And they do back-to-back 2 of the worst goal line plays I've ever seen in my life.
I sent, after one of those, I sent them to you, and I was just like, what was the play call? It just looked like the quarterback grabbed it, and he was like,
the announcers, and maybe this was it. I don't, again, we're not football coaches or analysts, so I don't know what it was supposed to be, but the announcers were saying
like a pitch.
Yeah, it was like a pitch where he turned the wrong way. So, but again, you're 4th and 1. Why are you doing a pitch? Do 2 quarterback sneaks at the 1-yard line to try to get, and then you're setting the Cowboys up right up against the goal line as it is. So, and you have to make them literally go 99 yards to win that game. Again, but again, you're a 1-win team. Why are you trying to tie it? Why are you trying to do anything? Just try to win the game. But then again, there's a conspiracy theory out there. Did the Texans even want to win the game? because they get nothing for winning it. They get the guaranteed number one pick for losing it. So I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? But so the big talk on that, though, is the Cowboys almost lost to a 1-win team, and they were supposed to be the Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
What have you heard today about it?
Every comment I now see is, oh, doesn't matter. A win's a win. I'd rather have an embarrassing win than an embarrassing loss, which is true, except when you look at Cowboy fan narratives from literally when any team has struggled against the team the Cowboys have beaten. Then it's like, oh, the Eagles should be embarrassed winning 1 point against the Colts. They should be embarrassed. Like, so the Cowboys fans should definitely be embarrassed. And I have not seen any embarrassment from this game, which is laughable. The Texans, again, let me read the Texans record. 1 win, 11 losses, 1 tie. Like, dear Lord, the Cowboys are 10-3, and they were 17-point favorites in this game. They won by 4. But again, it's one game. I'm not going to blow it out of proportion. If the Cowboys lose this game, then I think it's all hands on deck. Everybody who's a Cowboys fan is panicking. But because they squeak away with the win,
I'd be panicking. If say it was reversed and just say it's not the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have their stigma of being the Cowboys. But you just say it's the Patriots. The Patriots. If I was a fan. Being a fan of the Patriots, if this was reversed and this was my team and we were the Cowboys record and whatnot, and we laid an egg like that to that team, I would be shitting myself going into the playoffs. I'd be like, we're going to lose in the first round. We are garbage. 100%. And I know I know that any given Sunday things can happen. You can have bad games. You can have good games. That's kind of maybe what this seems like, was a bad game and a good game. But at this point in the playoff, or this point of the end of the year, you can't do that. And I did say last episode and talked about the Cowboys. What do? They crush bad teams, and they struggle against good teams. And so when they crush the bad teams, it makes them look better. This was your opportunity to put up another 50 burger, and you didn't. And you didn't.
Well, also, when it comes to crushing bad teams, they were within 8 points of the Giants. They were within 4 points to the Texans. And remember, the Colts-Cowboys game last week, they were losing 19-17 going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, the Colts just handed them the ball on 3 turnovers, almost right after each other. So
I would be scared to be a Cowboys fan right now. They're not playing great football. They're not.
Well, I think the red flag when it comes to Dallas, and again, I'm going to pat myself on the back for being on this trend before all of a sudden it became like, oh yeah, we should look into this, is Dak Prescott.
You did say the Texans will play Cowboys tough.
I did. I said the Texans, they play 2 types of games. They play really close games where they give it up in the fourth, kind of like the Bears, or they play competitive games where at the end of it, you're like, how the fuck did they lose? And this is a competitive game where at the end, you're like, how the fuck did they lose? But then you're watching it and you're like, oh, they lost because they ran 2 of the worst plays you've ever seen on the goal line.
Yeah. But how about, speaking of goal line, how about their defense, though, stopping the goal line multiple times?
They were playing hard hitting defense. Some of the shots they got on the Cowboys players were like, whoa, dear Lord.
Throughout the whole league. I mean, White took it the worst, but I was watching Red Zone and there was a lot of plays where I just saw players get rocked.
Yeah. Defenses definitely came to play this
wide receivers were getting rocked, quarterbacks were getting rocked, running backs. It was like we were watching a WWE event, or in my opinion, I like AEW, but
whoa, hot take. Take.
You like AEW, you like AEW better.
Yeah. But let's the last thing on this game, which I will say is the red flag I've been talking about for weeks on this podcast. is Dak Prescott every game now turns the ball over almost guaranteed. And in this game, he had 2 INTs. One of them in the fourth quarter was just terrible, like an abysmal INT that almost cost them the game. He has 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions since he came back. And again, Jalen Hurts, because we're going to switch over to that game, Jalen Hurts has 3 interceptions the entire season. Dak Prescott missed a month and a half. Like, he has 9 INTs almost since he came back. Since November 13th.
So we're done with the Dallas game. We've talked about that. So let's move over to this. And so I want to touch on what you just said about there. We slightly talked about it off air about the MVP race last night. This is a clear favorite.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP.
I agree.
And you were talking about the turnovers. Mahomes, how many did you say he had? You had it pulled up.
Well, he had 3. I don't even know if when I said that game was over at that point. So, he has 3 touchdowns or 3 INTs just last night. Like,
and Jalen Hurts has had 3 all season.
Yes.
How is Jalen Hurts not? I mean, he better be now. If he's not, I'll be blown away if you pull that up. But the clear favorite for the MVP.
He is now number 1 on betting sites as the MVP.
What he's doing in the air, what he's doing on the ground is phenomenal. And I want to touch again. I love when I see this stat. He's throwing it to everybody. Devontae Smith had 5 receptions, and he had the most receptions for the team. Then he had 4, 2, 2, 4, and 5 of them were 19-yard. 5 players had 19 yards or more in the game on receiving yards. They're passing it to everybody. And it's fantastic. I mean, Miles Sanders had a great running game, though. Two TDs, 17 carries for 144 yards. So that's an 8.5 yard average. He had a great game. Jalen Hurts was he did 7 carries for 77. So there's a running quarterback for you with a touchdown.
Yeah. Wow. So Jalen Hurts, the stats for this season are just like insane. He has 22 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then I believe, oh God, we're going to go with rushing yards again. I don't know why these sites don't put rushing yards with passing yards, but I believe he's around 700 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. Like, he does it. He does it on the ground as much as he does rushing. Oh, for him, they do have rushing totals pulled up. But, I mean, in this game,
because he's a running quarterback. Boom.
Yeah, it's just...
It's like 3D right there. Whoa.
He has, 686 and 10 touchdowns rushing. He has 22 passing. It's just like, this is insane. I've never seen... And what I love about Jalen Hurts, he'll be having the game of his life, and it cuts to him on the sidelines, and he looks so pissed off, like that he is just like, he's one of those people. Did you ever see that movie Ford versus Ferrari?
Mm-hmm.
So you remember when it was Matt Damon and the other guy, he played Batman. How am I blanking on his name?
Christian Bale.
So it was Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and every time they would have like this race car out on the track doing crazy things, and they would beat the record, and Christian Bale would get out of the car and list like 50 things he like thought sucked about the car, and then they fire Christian Bale, or no, he passes away in the movie. Spoiler alerts for a 4-year-old movie. But then Matt Damon, the company hires a guy they want, like testing the cars. And after every race, he gets out of the car and the guy asked him, how'd the car run? And he's like, oh, great. This is a fantastic car. And like Matt Damon is like, you were only out there for, he says like under his breath, like you were only out there for 20 minutes. Like, how the fuck would you know if it was like a good car? This is the mentality of this Eagles team. That was a long way to get to this point.
But it's well worth it. Fantastic.
He just gets every time. And again, perfect difference between, I took a screenshot of this morning. perfect difference between the mentality of this Eagles team and the mentality of the Cowboys team. There were two things. It's by Eagles Nation. If you're an Eagles fan, great follow. I'm sure you're already following him on all social media platforms. There was a reporter that asked Miles Sanders, what means more to you, the yards or the touchdown? Miles Sanders replied, one word, Super Bowl. Right? Super Bowl. Who gives a shit about a week 14 game? Trayvon Diggs, after the Cowboys barely beat the Texans, goes on Twitter and says, credit me with that INT, please. I had it first, LOL, or we can split it 50-50. And at the end of that game, they get the game-winning INT, and him and his teammate are like wrestling over the INT, and you could see Trayvon Diggs was legitimately pissed his teammate didn't let him have it. And then he goes after the game being like, please give me the INT. Like, I clearly had it first. Different in mentalities. One gives a fuck if he got credited with a garbage time INT that means nothing. The other player had 144 yards, 2 touchdowns in a blowout win. Doesn't even want to talk about it because his eyes are on the Super Bowl. This is my favorite Eagles team of my life. I fucking love them. I love every player on the team. They're easy to root for. They have this mentality.
So that's big. Like, because Eagles teams, I mean, obviously, even the Super Bowl year, like, there's been teams that have been good and whatnot, and you've liked them, but I don't think I've ever heard you say this. I mean, just now, you like every player on that team.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Dude, Hassan Reddick, the way he plays football is like, and there will be, I realize that as a player, there will be long stretches where he just vanishes and he's just not on the field. But also when it matters, he is always just right there. I love him. I love Graham. I love Kelsey. I love Goddard. I love our wide receiver core or whatever. This is Jalen Hurts. Again, there were people who were like, there were so many Eagles fans who are just like, fuck this guy. Like, we can't wait to have the Saints pick next year to get a top 5 quarterback. And I always said with you, I was like, when you watch Hurts games, there's something there. I remember saying this when he first started coming in for Wentz, and you were asking me, like, what do you think of Hurts? What do you think of Hurts? I was always just like, I don't know. There's just something I like about him. Obviously I never saw. I'm not trying to take any credit at all for.
I mean, as soon as it happened, I remember that. As soon as it happened, I sent you a message when you guys drafted him. Was just like, what do you think?
Yeah, and I was like, I was like every Eagles fan where I was like, I don't think we should be drafting a quarterback here. And then when Wentz started having, what we've come to see from Wentz since the Super Bowl season, when he started struggling, and then they put Hurts in, I believe it was that Saints game, and there was just something that happened in that game where he was just so poised and he like led them to victory just all by himself. And I remember texting you or messaging you and just being like, something about this guy, like, he's just so easy to root for. Carson Wentz, you kind of had to root for him despite dumb shit he would do on the field, dumb shit he would do off the field where all his teammates fucking hated him for whatever reason. I still don't know why they hate him, but yeah. And we've talked about this enough, but we can move on to the next game. But yeah, this is my favorite Eagles team of my lifetime. I think Hurts is quickly becoming the favorite Eagles quarterback of my lifetime. I've always been a huge McNabb fan. I obviously love Wentz and Foles for what they did bringing the first Super Bowl, but Hurts, I mean, the sky's the limit. It's really, I don't give a shit. They could lose the next 4 games. They could lose to Dallas. I don't give a shit. This is all now for this team specifically, Super Bowl or bust. It only matters what you do in the playoffs now. You could get blown out the next 4 games. I don't give a shit. It's all playoffs, and yeah, that's my Eagles rant.
So we've probably got about 15 minutes left before I'm going to have to be on out of here.
Yeah.
So let's try to rally these guys off these next
Raleigh.
4.
We'll try to rally them.
Let's start off with the Panthers. I was very surprised that
Sam Darnold too. Like,
yeah,
what?
I don't know what happened. There was talks about I forget which player it was for the Seahawks. I think Williams being out, and they were said that they were gonna defensive player and keep him off until they play the next game and save him for the potential for the division against the Niners. Well, that didn't work out. Now you may not even make the playoffs.
The playoffs. You might be out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Geno Smith had a not so great game. He did throw for 3 touchdowns, but he also did not protect the ball. He had 2 INTs. His percentage rate was not the best. It was just above 50%. I don't think the Seahawks are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're a bad team. They surprised a lot of people, but I think they're starting to trend a little downwards compared to the other teams. The Panthers, though, good for them that they won. That's a good moral victory for yourselves.
The Panthers, this is going to be my hot take.
No.
The Panthers are going to win the NFC South.
No.
That's my hot take.
No.
That's my hot take.
That's insanity. I don't really have much more to say on this game. If you want to continue that insanity, well, feel free.
Well, I honestly think the Seahawks have fallen to what we've been talking about them. We've always said the Seahawks and the Lions can only go as far as their defense allows them, right? They've been by far the worst 2 defenses collectively this entire season, almost unanimously. Like, there's nobody close. And the Lions have figured out their defense, right? They're now a little bit below average.
So my friend is a Lions fan, and I messaged that to him, and he was like, "It's insane. I can't believe that they've won 5 of 1." I was like, "Well, I can. They still have a really good offense, and their defense figured it out just enough to now start being able to pull off games."
Well, and the main difference is the Seahawks have a pretty good offense, right? But the Lions have a great offense. And so that's why we're seeing the Lions surge and the Seahawks fall back a little. I mean, if you look at Geno Smith, just collectively, he's 24-8 this season in terms of touchdowns to INTs. He's still good. He's been good. He hasn't been great. He has a little bit too many turnovers the past couple weeks. But again, I don't think this is on this offense. I think this is defense. And the Panthers now, they almost have a Brown situation going on now where they have a great rushing attack. They have an average quarterback, and then they have a decent defense. So I think that wins you games in this league. And the Panthers, if they can control the clock, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Panthers team, but let's move on to their divisional opponent, who is still number 1 in the division with a terrible 6-7 record, losing to the San Francisco 49ers, who are now 9-4, 35-7. Casino's fantasy corner.
Yes.
I knew it was going there. Dude, take the floor, Casino.
Phenomenal. I'm so happy with Purdy. And he went out there and he looked Purdy. He did. He looked Purdy. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And the award for the 12,000th person to use that joke goes to Casino.
but really, he looked phenomenal. He had 3 touchdowns. He looked great playing out there. I mean, McCaffrey, though, oof, we want to talk about, you said that he needs to start, shining. And
I called him out. Him out, and he listens to this podcast clearly and responded.
Yeah, 119 yards, a touchdown, but that one that he ran for, man, was phenomenal. Beautiful.
That's why you trade for Christian McCaffrey. Like plays in games like this.
Yeah, like 100%. Brock Purdy looked really good. And man, is Tom Brady going to get picked up next year?
Yeah, he's going to the Patriots.
Oh, yeah. I'll take him back. But man, dude. He looked rough. Again, and it's not so all that much on him. He did have 2 INTs, so this game felt a lot on him. But they have no rushing game. They have no rushing game at all.
No, I don't know. I don't know what the Bucs offense even is at this point. It's just Tom Brady yelling at people.
It's Tom Brady. Throw it as many times as he can, and
at his 55 times.
At his age, he should not be throwing the ball 55 times. Hell Lord. No. He's still in great shape. He's still going to play if people will pick him up. I'm sure somebody will. He's Tom fucking Brady. You play. He's still going to be around for a little bit. I don't think he's going to go. He could retire after this year. Who knows? But if he doesn't get the deal he wants, wherever, but he could still be a quarterback in this league. But you can't have him throw 55 times.
No,
he's a 25 times max kind of guy right now. But if you only have him throw 25 times, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get quality throws. But 55 times, that is ridiculous. That is
dude, there's
absurd.
no quarterback in the league that should be throwing 55 times.
No, but Joey B does it, and he shouldn't. I feel so bad for him.
Well, speaking of, next week, Bengals Buccaneers.
That's
going to be a great one. Then we're going to see, this is, I like Carolina, but the Buccaneers, if they can survive this next week, if they can pull the upset, or even if they lose, they're going to be 6-8, but then they have Cardinals, Panthers, Falcons. Now, the Panthers, on the other hand, they just have a tough schedule. They go Steelers, who we've seen aren't as bad as the record indicates. They are in pretty much every game except when they play the Bills. Then they go Lions, Buccaneers, Saints. So it's really going to come down to Panthers, Bucks, or if you think, or can you see the Falcons sneaking in there?
No,
or do you think this is? I think the
Bucks? Falcons are. They don't know what to do anymore. I think they're setting up shop. I don't have faith in them.
Yeah. So who do you think it's going to be?
I still think the Bucks pull it off. I do. I just do. They got what? They got 2 games on them, right? One? No,
they game. Got one.
Yeah, one game potentially, but I still think the Bucks will pull it off. I do. If the Panthers come through and win, holy shit! But I don't know. I think the Bucks will pull it off. It's hard to go against until it's proven where Tom Brady can't make the playoffs and he stumbles. I'm not going to bet against him. And then Brady gets to the playoffs. You can't. How hard is it to bet against Brady in the playoffs? Very, very hard to do. I don't really have much more to say on that game.
Let's switch over to the 49ers aspect of this.
That's right.
I think clearly now, especially from what we've seen from defense. Minnesota and Cowboys, I think it's Eagles 49ers as one of the 2 teams that's going to represent the NFC in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. I think if it gets to 49ers,
do you think Josh Purdy or gosh, I do it again. Brock Purdy could handle the pressure of playing against Dallas, say in Dallas?
Now, this is so funny, and I was just saying this as a joke. There is a guy at my work, me and him talk about football all the time. He's a diehard 49ers fan. At the start of the season, no bullshit, at the start of the season, I said, it's going to be you and my team in the NFC Championship. Book it. And I was just saying it as a fucking joke. Now, I really think that's true. I think it's going to be Eagles, 49ers going into Philadelphia, and I'm going to be shitting bricks the whole week because I really do think this 49ers team is the closest to the most complete team in the league, only second to the Eagles, and I would only put them second. I think the Niners have a better defense. I think the Eagles have a better quarterback. And playoff games always come down to 2 things. Who do you have at quarterback and how good is your defense? So I don't know who I would obviously want the Eagles to win. I don't know if I would pick them to win because
reverse jinx.
Yeah. Well, also, it would be reverse jinxing the fuck out of them on this podcast. But yeah, the 49ers scare me. They look phenomenal, especially because now Brock Purdy, he even looks like a better quarterback than Jimmy G because he can fucking run. So now they have a mobile quarterback who also can sling it deep like he was doing. He did some deep passes in yesterday's game that I haven't seen Garoppolo make. Like Brock Purdy. Who would have, great story. If my Eagles were out of it, I would be rooting for this Niners team.
And I love how they story. All the media just keeps calling him and Mr. Irrelevant going against Tom Brady. I'm like,
yeah.
Mr. Irrelevant.
First off, what a dickhead nickname. Like that's
That's
always I've always hated that they called the last pick in the draft Mr. Irrelevant because it's just like you have great players in the league every year that go undrafted. So they're more irrelevant than the guy actually who got drafted. And it's like this guy came in and he's playing on one of the best teams in the league and he's lighting it up and people are still being like, Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Irrelevant. Like, clearly he's not. Clearly he's not.
He should make a t-shirt that says Mr. Irrelevant, but it's like a superhero. And it's just.
Or it says Mr. Irrelevant and then it crosses out the ear. So it says Mr. Relevant. That's a shirt idea, Casino. We're going to open up a shirt company. Let's invite Tommy on the podcast to talk about our options here. Let's move to the last two games of the day. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs, now 10-3, beating the 3-10 Denver Broncos, 34-28. Patrick Mahomes, 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs, and the Broncos come surging back. The Kansas City Chiefs scored 21 points in the second, but then Broncos scored 14 in the second, 7 in the third, 7 in the fourth, almost made a game of it. Russell Wilson got knocked out of this game and he looked like he was just out of it. So I would might
have a good season now.
But we make fun of Russell Wilson, but I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Nobody like that. So hopefully he's okay. If that looked like a bad concussion, I'd be shocked, especially now that the Broncos are officially eliminated. I'd be shocked if he plays in any of the Broncos remaining games. But he's not playing. Yeah. He's not playing. So there's not really much to talk about on the Broncos side. Get well, Russell Wilson. On the Chiefs side, again, I think the Chiefs, their defense and Patrick Mahomes just slinging it. Those are the things that always concern me about the Chiefs team.
Yeah, but Mahomes slinging it into other players' hands. He had turnovers, man.
Well, he only has 11 turnovers this season, but he definitely feels like one of those players where he tries to make up for interceptions by trying to show that he can do throws that led to the interception, like that are good throws, but then it can lead to this kind of game where he just has more turnovers, more throws because he's trying to force throws. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes, still the best quarterback in football. I'll say that. I don't think he wins MVP just because Jalen Hurts is having an incredible year, but I don't think you can doubt Mahomes. No. I just would. If
Jalen Hurts has another season like this next year, then you can say, hey, who's the better quarterback? Who's the best quarterback in the league? Is it Mahomes or is it Hurts?
Yeah. But again, Mahomes is because he's been consistently this since coming into the league.
And that's kind of what I'm saying is
yeah. No,
if Hurts can go like next year, because he didn't have a bad year, yeah, for sure.
But we're looking at this game now. I still wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. Again, I think that the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals are all within that ecosystem of one of those teams is going to represent the AFC. I would be shocked if it wasn't one of them. Let's go to the last game on the docket, Casino. Chargers winning now 7-6, 23-17 against the 8-5 Dolphins. Tua, 2 weeks in a row, has just looked rough.
He did.
Rough.
Maybe we picked the Dolphins.
We might have spoken too soon about why does everybody hate Tua? He's a good quarterback. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks after we said that.
Well, I have said that he was a good quarterback. Is he a great quarterback? No, he's got to prove to me that he is. He has to finish this year good, and so far he's not. And then he has to do something in the playoffs. Not meaning you have to win, but you have to do something. And then have a pretty decent season next year. And if he was halfway through the season, I would say, hey, all right, man, we've got an above average quarterback here. He's a good quarterback, working on being a great quarterback, but definitely with this slip, he's going to be only a good quarterback in my mind for a while. He's got a lot to go.
We for some reason, I keep bringing up the last month of games. There's so much in this league that has changed just in the last month alone. In the last month, he went from having an almost 80% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, no INTs against the Browns. Then against the Texans, he throws 1 touchdown, 61 completion percentage. The past 2 weeks, Do you want to guess what his completion percentage was against this Chargers team?
43.
35%
Holy
completion
hell.
percentage. And then against the Niners, he had 54%, 2 INTs.
What is that average? What is that average?
I have no fucking idea. But he has had 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and a below 60% or a below 55% completion percentage the past 2 weeks. Tua might be turning back into a pumpkin. I don't know, but
why is that one of your favorite sayings of all time?
Because I love that saying. I love the imagery of it, of a person turning into a pumpkin. I love it. I love it. It's just one of my sayings, one of my bugaboos. Also going to be on a t-shirt.
A bugaboo?
Yeah, my bugaboos. But if you're, again, these two teams, the Chargers, I don't know what to make of this Chargers team. I don't know if they make the playoffs. The Dolphins now, I don't know if they make the playoffs. This was one of those games where the Chargers, Herbert looked good, not great. He threw 367, 1 touchdown, like he does every game, just make some crazy throws. But this Chargers team, I don't trust them to be healthy. I don't trust them to stay healthy. This Dolphins team, I don't know if you can trust Tua. Again, I need to see how the season pans out for these two teams. I would not feel confident making a pick for either of them. They could easily both go undefeated or lose their last remaining games, all of them, and I wouldn't be shocked.
That's a good take.
And then we might do, depending on how good or bad this Patriots Cardinals game is tonight, we might do a little thing for just the YouTube tomorrow. So check that out on our Only Sports Podcast YouTube page.
But I do want, since we're doing this live, I want to talk about the World Cup.
Oh, and you know what? Before we get off football, just to be controversial, I'm switching my pick tonight to the Cardinals, just to get one pick closer to you. So go Cardinals.
All right,
okay, go Casino.
So last time we talked, we were talking about the Brazil-Croatia game, yada, yada. But the next day, you had another big upset. Wonderful, wonderful day for Morocco. They beat Portugal. Ronaldo's out. He was crying in the tunnel. It made me, I had so much joy.
You love that he was crying in the tunnel.
I do.
You love it.
I love it. I love it. He's such a douchebag. And when he is nice, it's fake. He's doing it for the media likes. He's not really trying to, because you never hear about him doing any nice things outside of that. I'm sorry, I'm just not a Ronaldo fan. Amazing player, yes, he's phenomenal. But now the big question was, he came off the bench in around the 50th minute. Who should you have started him? Should you have started him? And I mean, well, whatever. They're gonna have to figure that out back in Portugal, because they're not in anymore. Whoop-de-doo. Then also, France did beat England, but Harry Kane, he screwed up. He had the chance to at least push that game into a 2-2, but he missed the PK. Oy vey. So France is through. I would be happy now with any 3 team outside of France. So go Argentina for Lionel Messi. Go Croatia for Luka Modric, and then go Morocco, because holy crap, go Morocco. First time that a African team has made the semifinals. And you told me a little fun bit last night.
Yeah.
BJ, if I put $500 on Morocco to make the semifinals, how much money would I have made?
Now, I don't remember. I think it was make the semifinals or it was win the World Cup. Either way, it was plus 20,000. Okay. Which is, I don't know what, even if it was the longest of long shots, why you would ever give that option, because it's not like anybody's going to be betting on it. If it was Morocco plus 5,000, I know, but you would still be like, that's crazy odds.
$500.
So it was plus 20,000. If you bet 500, you would have won $10 million. Like, I saw that on SportsCenter. That's fucking crazy.
That's BJ math for you. So it may or may not be true, folks.
No,
so
this is calculator checked math. That
I know it's
$10 million.
I'm just making a shit for your wonderful math skills.
Oh no, it's awful. Math and geography, and then we're also talking about World Cup. These are three of my biggest weaknesses right here on display for the world to see. But,
crazy how that it's crazy how that worked out. So I'd be happy with 3 of the 4 teams to win the World Cup this year. So
yeah.
let's
And
go.
we're
Just
kind of
France, and I have nothing against France. Nothing against France. I just don't want to see them go back to back, especially if Croatia made it to the finals. I don't want to see again France beating Croatia 2 World Cups in a row. I'd be crushed. I would be crushed. I think Luka Modric would go and just like bury himself away. He'd retire on the spot.
But we're butting up against the clock right here, so we're going to end it there. Stay tuned tomorrow on our YouTube page. We'll talk about Monday Night Football. Thursday, we'll have the second podcast this week where we'll talk about Week 14. We'll get more in depth on the World Cup. We'll talk NHL. We'll talk NBA. In our NHL talk in our next episode, we'll talk about me and Casino's mandate. It
was good.
This has been the Only Sports Podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Handle is Only Sports Pod. Or no, it is Only Sports Cast, I think. I don't know. Only Sports Cast. Only Sports Cast on Twitter. I've been Will. That's been Casino. We're the Only Sports Podcast. Shout out to Jeff for making our thumbnail for the episode this week on YouTube.
Oh,
it's so funny. It made Casino cry. Tears of laughter. I was sitting there when we both saw it for the first time. Legitimately made you cry, did it not?
Oh yeah, no, it did. And I mean, you laughed for maybe about 10 minutes straight, legitimately, as you're trying to respond to it. And
it's gold.
But I wasn't able to respond to it because I was legitimately just crying and trying to clear up my eyes. It was
we will
phenomenal.
give the tease for next episode. We will give the reason why he made this gift and why it was so funny to us on next episode.
Yes. This is
all right.
Meme, not a gift, by the way.
Oh, meme. Sorry. Meme, GIF, whatever. All right.
I'm not the social media guy. Come on, figure it out.
True. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. Adios.